now, without LeBron, Lakers are strong.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys
Get this win. I don't know, Jack. It's a big decision.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem with saying space.
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you. I thought I was right. So anyway,
Yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
so
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
All right. Got to know how to hold it.
a little Wicked Wilson Pickett in the morning for you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the National Streaming Sports Mac and Jack Sports Show. Ending your week here Friday. So we'll have Keith Engel in here in a little bit and keep your tuned to Roku all day as well as all sports all day for you. So, Jack, time of year where we get slow on some sports in between playoffs. I mean, we can talk a little bit off the wrap about the NHL playoffs. Florida goes up 3-0 as they win. I think it was 4-3 last night. Edmonton over Edmonton Oilers. Barkov, Bennett, and Reinhart all had a goal apiece. And this is just like the NBA playoffs could be over next game, Jack.
I can't recall, Mac, ever two series in the same year, NBA and NHL, the lack of drama, because it's not like the underdogs have grabbed a 3-0 lead and shocked us. We're seeing, for the most part, what we expected. Not me. I thought Dallas was really going to give the Celtics a tough time. And I picked the Celtics in 7 games. And that's looking like an awful prediction. Terrible. Even though I would have picked the right team, I'm way off in the prediction. Like when it was 2-0, you said, Mac, the Celtics are going to sweep. I thought Dallas was still going to grab a game. And who knows, maybe they will grab game 4. But if they win game 4, the Celtics are going to close them out in game 5. And I don't even think they're going to win game 4 anymore at this point. And in hockey, Edmonton keeps battling. I saw during the national anthem before the game yesterday, Florida and Edmonton. The game is played in Edmonton, and they're playing the Canadian national anthem. And the crowd is so into it, trying to rally the Edmonton Oilers. And then you see the bench of the Florida Panthers. I mean, I don't have the roster in front of me, but it's safe to say most of the players on the Florida Panther team are Canadian-born. They're Canadian. That's their national anthem, too. And they're being made like they're non-Canadian. And, well, people are trying to rally the Edmonton Oilers. So what are the Florida Panthers supposed to be thinking? They're hearing their national anthem because they are Canadian at heart and born Canadians as well. And a Canadian-based hockey team, Mac. We're talking about the Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, Edmonton Oilers, etc. They haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1993. Think of it, Mac. That's over 30 years. And Canada used to own hockey. That's their sport. And they haven't won a Canadian-based team for over 30 years. So how do you think the country of Canada feels when they're going to see a Florida Panther team win it this year? Last year, the Las Vegas Golden Knights win it. A team from the city of Las Vegas gets to celebrate, but not them. And they get to celebrate with their players, Canadians. I mean, think of the way what that must do to those Canadian fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's so international now. Back then, it wasn't as international as now. And the free agency, people moving, and I mean, it's crazy. And I guess that would be like Canada beating us in basketball for the championship, huh, Jack? I guess that's what it is.
No, that would be like, let's say, the country of France winning the NBA championship, them being given a franchise, and they have mainly all American players. How do we feel here in the United States?
There you go. Good morning to Keith Anker from TGI
Morning,
Sports.
Keith.
Keith on with us every Friday and Sunday, 95% of the time, unless he's in the ocean somewhere getting sick on his yacht. So,
you made it sound like I was dropped in the ocean by the mob or something, for crying out loud.
Well, I don't know who you associate with, off this show, so I'm not going to talk about the mob anyway. But anyway, Keith,
congratulations to Jack.
I want to get to you with
real quick. I want to say congratulations to Jack on his award this past week. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Writing award it's called the Bernie's, the Boxing Writers Association of America's writing contest. Thank you, Keith.
He came in second, Keith. I can congratulate him. He's got to come in first for me to congratulate him.
Well,
that's like after the season, Keith. If the Yankees go to the World Series and lose it, and you congratulate them, in a great year, they'll go, yeah, thank you, but we just came up a bit short, but we, on the bridge. But I'll take it.
It's deserved.
Okay, so Keith, the biggest story around the things that you normally cover on this show, of course, is Tom Brady getting his number retired, being inducted into the New England Patriot Hall of Fame. He just finished not too long playing football, so it's not like they waited a long time to put him in, but of course, well-deserved. The premier New England Patriot of all time. They started to go to Super Bowl when he started starting, and since he's left, they haven't really done too much. And you can say that's Bill Belichick too, and I'd agree with you. But Tom Brady, of course, one of the most accomplished quarterback in the history of football.
I agree 100% with your comments. And as far as the Belichick-Brady debate, Brady should have put it to bed forever yesterday, because if you read his comments, what he had to say, he was very effusive in his praise of Bill Belichick and his own development, which I've talked about a lot, that you can't just discount that as far as, Belichick's influence on that situation, and said it was never him, it was never me, it was us. And he made it clear that he wanted to play. If there was any coach he wanted to play for, it would have been Bill Belichick. Now, I understand he's in a place where he can't say much else, but I think it shows a lot about how he feels about the team.
Sure.
And the coach.
Yeah, Peyton Manning was in attendance, and it got me to thinking the best thing at their stages of their career, Brady and Manning, was to move on to other teams. Because had Brady stayed a Patriot, they weren't going to win another Super Bowl with Brady as quarterback. Not even close. Let's be honest about it. Then they weren't going to win another Super Bowl with him there. And I don't think they would have even come close. And the same thing with Manning when Andrew Luck came to the Colts and he moved on to Denver. They weren't going to win another Super Bowl and get there with Manning. So both guys enhanced their legacy by winning it with other teams, and they have a history with other teams as well. So it was win-win for both quarterbacks.
I don't know if it enhances your legacy. I guess it does. You won with two different teams. I guess it does enhance it, but there's also something that enhances your legacy if you stay with one team your entire career, which doesn't happen that much today. And I think in 2020 hindsight, we can easily say you would not have won another Super Bowl if that team were constructed exactly as it was after he left. Yeah, they would not have won another Super Bowl, but we can't say definitely that's what would have happened. They might have done other things to make it close. They didn't look close to a Super Bowl in his last game as a Patriot, for sure. But you're right. I mean, given what's happened since he left, we don't have any reason to think they would have won without serious other changes to that roster.
Well, if you think about it, Brady did a lot of things for the Patriots. Not only was he the winning quarterback, I mean, he took pay cuts. He was quite a leader out there for him. I mean, he did everything he could. In fact, not only did he get this jersey retired in the Hall of Fame, I think Robert Kraft gave him a $50 off any massage in the future that he would have won
don't think-
down in Florida.
Stop it, Matt. Stop the nonsense, Matt. Come on, it was a
Seriously.
serious thing with Robert Kraft.
Listen,
You know, it doesn't need to be brought up, B. We're not doing a
Seriously.
roast here, Matt.
seriously, well deserved. Anyway,
He's funny. Can
So-
I make one
Go ahead.
comment? You
Go
talked
ahead.
about something that's very important. I mean, and people overlook this because they go, "Oh, Brady got his money. He wasn't underpaid," but he did almost every year, reconstruct his contract. Now, a lot of the money just got pushed down the road. I get that, right? But he reconstructed his contract so they can improve at other positions, which helped them stay consistent through that 20-year period. And you compare that with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who cried his entire career, make my team better, but he never once, until now with the Jets, he did it.
He did it. He gave back a ton of money, millions and millions to the Jets.
Oh, time out with the Jets. His entire time he cried with the Packers and never once gave any of his
Peyton
money back.
Manning did neither. Let's call it as is. Peyton Manning
yeah.
never took cuts, and I don't
And
hear
he
you
cried.
criticizing him.
And he never sat and cried about the lack of weapons he thought he had. So anyway,
No. With Aaron Rodgers, they never drafted on offense. His during his time as on the first round.
Devontae
And
Adams,
when he was Packers
Randall
quarterback, they'd always second round, third round, but their first round picks were never for an offensive player year after year after year. And he had a right to have
He
some
played with
discipline
really
in that
good-
regard.
He played with really good offensive weapons on that team year after year after year. Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb,
Second round, but they weren't drafted in the first round.
regardless, they're good players. What does it matter where you get them? Tom Brady was drafted.
Aaron Rodgers made them better. Devontae Adams hasn't been that good since he's gone to the Raiders.
I won't disagree with that. But it wasn't like he was devoid of weapons, which he made it sound
Listen,
like.
Tom Brady is your boy. Aaron Rodgers is Jack's boy. It's been
Yeah, I
established on this show for a long
I'd
time.
box him about this, but I'd probably get.
If you want to make a joke, Max, talk about Aaron Rodgers maybe running for vice president on the Kennedy ticket, Kennedy Rodgers ticket.
I'd like the $50 off coupon card because Robert Kraft could pay for the whole thing instead of just giving him $50 off. I thought that's why it was so funny.
But could you imagine the headline if Rodgers quarterbacked the Jets and ran for VP and he was allowed to do it, and he'd say, "No, we want no distractions."
Right.
They'd be a great ticket. One guy's got a dead worm in his brain, and the other guy spends half his time in a cave in the
Well,
woods.
there you go. Well, Keith is firing a lot of shots here. Good morning, Rick. Yeah, Brady loves football. Listen.
Agreed. I agree 100%.
When you get to that level, I don't care really whatever level you're on. I mean, it's a family, man, and you can be the greatest football player in the world if you don't have the surrounding cast or you don't have a team and team chemistry. You're not going to go that far, and that's just the way football is. Good.
Let me ask you this, Keith. Brady's now going to be in the booth. He signed a 10-year deal with Fox, $375 million for 10 years. He's going to be getting paid more, I think, than he ever paid the quarterback
Sure.
in the NFL. And there's already a little bit of a controversy. Well, he's replacing Greg Olsen. Personally, I think Greg Olsen is pretty good. He's not lights out to me, like an iconic broadcaster. It's not like Brady's replacing Vince Scully, Al Michaels, or someone like that. And Brady's going to be in a spot. If he doesn't criticize any of the players, any of the coaches, it's not going to go over well. But there's a fraternity within the NFL as far as how far he can go. He's going to come across a little bit as being like a villain, and I think it's going to be unavoidable no matter what he does. How do you think Brady's going to tackle his role as the chief analyst for Fox?
I'm a little concerned that he won't criticize people, as you said, and he'll be a little milquetoast because, I mean, you don't see him diving too deep into topics. Now, there's no doubt he knows the game, but can you express that knowledge is a different thing, and be critical of players when they do things that are wrong on the field, whether it's not playing hard. That's the biggest thing to me. You make mistakes, that's fine. You can call those out. But when guys are taking plays off and something, there's guys like Troy Aikman, I think. Guys love or hate Troy Aikman. I think Troy Aikman's very hard on players at certain times. And I think that's the model that Brady should follow, whether he will or not. Joe Montana was kind of the same when he came in. He went to the booth and he was very, again, milquetoast. He wasn't criticizing players. He was just, very the surface level barely got broken with Joe Montana. And I hope he's at least somewhere between maybe an Aikman and a Montana, and he'll be successful. Olson did an incredible job. I don't think Olson was doing a horrible job, and he knew this is what was coming. I mean, there was no doubt when Brady showed up, he was going to get the job, but we'll see what happens.
Olson did a good job, but there's a little bit of a backlash, like he was an iconic announcer, like it was his right to hold on to the job, and it wasn't, It's like a team. You get a player who's a little better, you move on from one play and you go to the next. It's just the way, sports is constructed.
Remember, too, that Olson, it wasn't just Olson coming in brand new. I mean, so was Kevin Burkhardt, his partner. So they were replacing, two high-profile guys and Buck and Aikman. And that's a heavy lift for those guys. And I thought they did a very credible job.
I thought they were okay. They didn't make me turn off the TV. I got no doubt Brady's going to be fine. I think Brady will criticize when he needs to criticize and laugh and joke and talk about other things when he needs to. He seems like he's pretty. He's pretty intense about football, and I think he'll do fine. Anyway. Real quick, the Yankees 1 game away from 50 wins still as they lost last night. Listen, it's going to happen. You're going to lose a couple. You're going to go on a little winning streak. You're going to lose a couple. That's baseball. But they're one way to win. 100 home runs. First team to do it this year as a team. 100 home runs. And, of course, Judge is leading the league with 25 right now. So I have no worries about the Yankees. Let's talk a little bit about the NBA. Mr. Clutch, Mr. Logo, unbelievable basketball player. I think he's 13-time All-Star, something like that. Coach, GM, maybe the best basketball GM of all time, put together, the Lakers Showtime, got traded up to get Kobe Bryant, brought Shaq in, another couple championships. I mean, the guy knew what he was doing, still was involved, did a great job at Memphis too, before he passed away. What can you say about this? This guy deserves to be on the logo. They try to keep taking him off every year, like the Lombardi Trophy. You want to change it. You want to leave well enough alone. He was great at everything he did in basketball, Keith. I
agree. Leave him the logo. He was a very consistent player. The knock on him was he wasn't winning championships. It took him till 72, I think, to win a championship. But he was never, I don't think, the real reason those teams failed. There were certainly a lot of fingers to point. He was one of the most consistent guys in that era, in a far different era of basketball. I think he averaged over 26 points like 11 or 12 years in a row, and over 30 with no three-point shot, remember, 3 or 4 of those years. Great player, played good defense, and and by all accounts, a classy guy. Every time I saw him, I don't know Jerry West, obviously, or talked to anybody that did know him. He wasn't portrayed great in an HBO series they did about Winning Time, but outside of that, I mean, I don't think anybody ever said anything bad about him. As you said, also went on to a great career. He coached for a year and realized that wasn't what he wanted to do, and he built up 2 Laker dynasties, not 1, 2, and then moved on and was successful elsewhere. So I think Jerry West should be remembered as a great benefactor to this league. And a lot of these players are where they are because of guys like Jerry West. They're making that money because of guys like Jerry West.
How does this sound, the term pound for pound? They talk about it in boxing, non-heavyweights, who's the best in the world. If you look at pound for pound, greatest basketball man of all time, you combine what Jerry West is as a player and as an executive, he's arguably the greatest basketball person of all time. You could make an argument he was the greatest GM. He works out the deal to get Kobe Bryant to the Lakers.
Shaq.
For Vladdy Divac. He talked Shaquille O'Neal into leaving the Orlando Magic to come to the Lakers. He talks the Golden State Warriors out of trading away Klay Thompson. Just the amount of things that guy has done and the moves he's made. they tried to hold it against him, little things. Like they interviewed Phil Jackson yesterday. Phil Jackson's a condescending snob. Okay, that's what Phil Jackson is. And Phil Jackson would take little digs at Jerry West in a subtle way, saying, well, he didn't really maybe want to draft Magic Johnson. I was told he wanted to draft Sidney Moncrief, who he was enamored with. Sidney Moncrief's in the Hall of Fame. Jerry West nailed it. Maybe he didn't see Magic Johnson being as great as he was, but he nailed it with Sidney Moncrief. He's a Hall of Famer, Sidney Moncrief. So Jerry West had this amazing eye for talent. I mean, he is the guy who, when Jerry Buss said to take over as coach of the Lakers, co-coached with Pat Riley, he said, no, Pat's the coach. He didn't put his own ego to the side and wanted Pat Riley to coach the team instead of him. And look what Pat Riley's went on to being.
He did. And you mentioned Magic, and then you mentioned his second dynasty, right? How he got Kobe, he got this. But remember, that early dynasty, he not only got Magic somehow with his second or third, somehow he ended up with second or third pick in making deals. He also got James Worthy and brought Keith Wilkes in or Jamal Wilkes in from the Warriors. He did a great job building that first and would take retreads like Haywood and McAdoo, who had kind of worn out their welcome elsewhere, and made them valuable contributors to that first dynasty. I saw them. I got to give Riley credit for making them the contributors, but he saw that they still had something left to contribute. And I agree. I could make an argument that he is the most important player, person in NBA history for sure.
Yeah, and he did pretty good as a college player too. Took I think it was West Virginia. Yeah. Lost by a point to I forget who they played right now, but they lost by 1 point in that.
Might have been Ohio State. I'm not sure.
Olympic gold medalist Jerry West.
I mean, he checks all the boxes and checks them really hard too.
And Mac, I think you could take him and put him in today's game, and he'd find a way to be very successful.
Oh yeah, he'd be good. He'd be very good today. I mean, there's a lot. He's one of the players that I think can transcend America, and that's.
And he would do it easily with the 3-point shot. Are you kidding? He was a spot-on shooter.
I agree. So let's get to the playoffs. Rick has Perkins in basketball was brutal on Doncic. Carl, Perkins is you could take. I don't like Perkins honestly. I mean, he's another one of those things that says things just to say them. Listen, Doncic is hurt. He's very hurt, and he's playing, and he's doing the best he can. He's got no support.
He's frustrated.
Kyrie, and listen, Kyrie finally put up 35 points. It took him 3 games to get really involved in the game. They really got no bench there. The Celtics are just a better team. I don't care if Doncic wasn't hurt. The Celtics would still, I think, be 3-0 right now. And Doncic right now, as you said, Keith. I mean, he's grabbing people because he can't play at full speed. He's fouling out of games. The Celtics just got too many. If you're going to stop. If you're going to stop Brown, you're going to stop Tatum, then they got White, then they got Drew Holiday, then they got somebody. I mean, they just keep coming at you in waves. It's very hard to stop this team overall. They got more talent, and they got more depth than Dallas has. And it's just you can't depend on 2 players, and this is why. If Doncic is hurt, we're going to go right at him. And, of course, that's what they're going to do. I mean, I don't know. Go ahead, Keith. Sorry.
Yeah, they can beat you in so many ways. I do disagree a little bit. I think maybe they'd be up 3-0. I think the series would be more competitive, especially those 2 games in Boston, if Doncic were healthy. You watch him play, and it's kind of painful to watch him play because you can see how slow and labored everything is. And he can't get his own shot because they can easily converge on him and stop him because he doesn't have a way out of trouble, and he's just not the player that he normally is. And it's for that guy to get on the big stage and unfortunately have to play with, this way is sad for him. But this is a really good basketball team. You can't take anything away from the Celtics because Doncic gets hurt.
Well, think of what it does to Dallas psychologically to have the Celtics attacking Luka the whole time. And Luka's not the greatest defender as is, and he's getting in foul trouble. And he has a hard time keeping up. And when a team sees that their main star's getting attacked and beaten up, it takes something out of the rest of the players.
Yeah, I agree. You look at it's Boston's time, I think, and it's just that simple. They're good enough. They've been good enough at other times to get over the top, probably, and now's their time. So
some people say Boston is lucky because every team they've played, the stars have been hurt, and there's something to that. But Boston was the favorite going to the championship in the beginning of the year. They had a great year. They've gone through the playoffs like a knife through butter, and they're playing who's in front of them. And I don't care. I don't care who it would be from the West. I think this is, as you said, Keith. I think this is Boston, Jerry. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, people who don't. I mean, if you're not just a basketball fan, if you're a Boston hater or whatever, you're going to find reasons to give them an asterisk, if you will, in your own mind. But if you go back through history, I guarantee you'll find places where teams won championships, and a lot of the teams they played were in the same situation that the teams the Celtics played, right? That's just part of basketball. This time of year, teams are beat up. I'm sure the Celtics have. Look at Porzingis. We aren't mentioning the fact that Porzingis who had a great game one, is either limited or out, and that still affects the Celtics. So look at that. I'm not giving even the Knicks. Brunson kept saying, "Stop talking about excuses. We should have found a way to win."
Yeah.
So you just next man up, and you got to play who you can. As you said, you play who's in front of you. That's all you can do.
Right. One more thing before you go, Keith. I want your opinion on this. Trevor Lawrence signs a $275 million 5-year contract. $200 million is guaranteed. He's right now tied with Joe Burrows as the highest paid player in the league. Now, when he first came out, and to me, he's probably with one of the worst quarterback classes of all time. He comes out, and they said he was going to be transitional. He's going to go in the Hall of Fame. This guy is right now. He's a little bit better than average to me. I mean, he's okay. He's a decent quarterback. He's got a lot to learn. I'm not saying he won't get in the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying right now it doesn't look like it. To get that kind of money, to be as high as paid as Joe Burrows, who actually took the Bengals somewhere, to me is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And not Jerry Jones has got to be gritting his teeth right now. He's got a quarterback over there that has been in the playoffs and is a lot better than Trevor Lawrence right now, waiting to sign a contract.
Yeah, I mean, this is because of the market that's been set for quarterbacks. You can thank Deshaun Watson basically for this, in my mind, and his agent and the Browns for giving him that contract. That's what really started to catapult these salaries up and up, and guys who are marginal. I'm not saying he's not an above average quarterback. I think he is. He's in the top half of the league in quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence. But except for the one playoff win where San Diego blew a huge lead, and obviously the Jaguars had something to do with that. He's been very inconsistent at best, right? He shows flashes of being that person that I was one of those guys who thought he was going to be a generational player. I really did. And he's still got time. We got to remember he's only 24 years old. It's not like his career's half over. He's got time to develop. A lot of great quarterbacks, Dan Fouts and Stabler, and guys just sat around forever. It seemed like he's playing and got a chance to get better. But right now, to me, this is a product of other quarterbacks getting money that maybe they didn't deserve, like Watson raising a market. And you're right. If I'm Jerry Jones and I don't want to pay Dak Prescott that kind of money, I'm going to have to make a move because he's going to get that kind of money somewhere.
Well, you're paying partly on potential, a large part on potential. If I ask you both a question, and I ask you to answer yes and no, and not hem and haw, yes and no, is Trevor Lawrence going to be a Hall of Famer someday in your view? Is he going to make it to the Hall of Fame? I'll start off and I'll say yes.
I'll say no.
I'll at this point, I'll still say yes.
Okay, but there's your answer. The idea the two of you are split as far as that goes. You're paying on potential. Someone else is going to pay Trevor Lawrence. What are the chances of him taking a backward step this year? It's unlikely. All he has to do is get a tiny bit better each year, and they're fine. They have their franchise quarterback. They can win a Super Bowl with him, and that's what you're paying for. You're not paying compared to another quarterback. obviously Mahomes deserves more money. As far as Joe Burrow, he's been hurt his share of times. I might want to invest in Trevor Lawrence sooner than I would in Joe Burrow, because Trevor Lawrence is more likely to see the field than Joe Burrow is.
Well, Trevor Lawrence did get hurt last year. And, his mechanics aren't that good. And even though Joe Burrows hasn't been on the field, he still led the Cincinnati Bengals to a lot farther than Trevor Lawrence has, being healthy. So,
Burrow's right now head and shoulders above Trevor Lawrence when he's healthy, for sure.
There's no doubt. Well, so Keith is off to do his interview. Who do you got today, Keith?
We have Paul Rosen today, who is a Paralympic athlete, won a Paralympic gold medal for sledge hockey. So it's for physically disabled people, which probably isn't the right term to use today, and I apologize. But he's He's also an advocate for literacy, because he admitted that when he was 50 years old, he couldn't read or write. How he got that far, we'll find out today. But he's got a book out called "Never Give Up: The Meaning of the Paul Rosen Story," and he's a really inspirational story. And I look forward to talking to him here in a half hour.
All right, Keith. Thanks again for coming in. We love it when you do. We'll see you on Sunday, and have a great show, Keith.
See you guys.
Take care, Keith.
Good morning. I'm Sonia Pearson, host of Prim and Proper Sports, and you're watching the Mac and Jack Show, only on Northeast Professional Sports and the Huddle Sports Network. Enjoy the show.
I thought she was coming on as a guest all of a sudden. Then Sonia came on, I was shook up.
Yes. That's of course a bumper she kindly did for us on the Mac and Jack Sports Show here in the morning. Thanks for that, Sonia. So, Jack, let's stick with the NFL. The Atlanta Falcons the Eagles don't get any action taken against them for Saquon Barkley, but the Falcons, where there was evidence of tampering, get a 5th-round draft choice taken away from them in 2025. The team gets fined for $250,000, and the GM is fined $50,000. So that's the results they came to. It's not a big deal to me. I mean,
it's not a big deal. The teams could have, the Falcons can afford it. It's not like they lost draft choices where they were hit hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't hear that they lost the 2nd-round draft choice. So what kind of tampering was it? Was it baby tampering? Very gentle tampering, or what? What was the extent? Because if they seriously tampered, that's all. $250,000 for the team and $50,000 for the GM. I mean, come on. The GM, for what he's making, $50,000 is like going out and buying a car.
Right.
He keeps his old car for a year or two more, and
that's
they're
right.
buying a new one. I mean, come on.
Listen,
either they tampered or they didn't.
Is this? Yeah, they did. They got him on. They got him. Actually, got conversations of him and the GM talking before they actually hit the trade deadline. So they did have that. I don't know, Jack. I think this is more to me of signs to come. There's bad vibes. There's bad aura. Kirk Cousins going to the Atlanta Falcons is supposed to be a quarterback that's going to take them somewhere in the playoffs. But this is not starting out right. They're already fine. They're already losing draft choices. I think this is like a bad Moji thing going on here. And that's what I got to say about it. If you believe in that stuff, I don't know, man. This is like a bad aura, as I said. So we'll see what happens.
I'm kind of thinking, if Kirk Cousins, imagine he did this. It's never been done in sports before. He left the Vikings to sign as a free agent with the Falcons under certain conditions. He was promised he's going to be a franchise quarterback, not knowing that they would draft Michael Penix, number 8 overall in the draft, which came as a complete shock to everybody. Could you imagine Kirk Cousins sued the Falcons to get out of the contract? He didn't want to know from them. He took them to court. Can you imagine how bizarre that court case would be? But of course he wouldn't do it because there's so much money Cousins was getting. But the whole situation is bizarre. And of course, had Cousins known what the Falcons were going to do, he probably never would have signed for the Falcons. He probably would have taken a little bit less money to go elsewhere.
Well,
Maybe a lot less
Maybe because the Vikings. That's why he supposedly left the Vikings, because they said they're drafting a quarterback with their, in the first pick, and they went and got McCarthy. So that's why he supposedly was looking to go somewhere else, and the Falcons did the same thing the Vikings did. So yeah, I think you're right, Jack. I think he would have went somewhere else.
You're going to have an interesting scenario at Minnesota. I know our regular listener, Rick Sherlock's a big Viking fan. Sam Darnold is in all probability going to start the year as the Vikings started. The coach, Kevin O'Connell, said as much. And they like the way Darnold's been looking in training camp. I understand what I said about Darnold before when he was with the Jets, but this was a player that needed a change of scenery. He's now in his 7th year in the league. I really think Darnold's going to have a good year as the Viking quarterback. I feel this is going to be his coming out party. And what happens if Sam Darnold really is an excellent quarterback for the Vikings this year? How do you move on to J.J. McCarthy unless Darnold gets injured? So you might have a situation where McCarthy might be on the bench a number of years. You never know how it's going to play out in Minnesota. Everyone's assuming they're going to slip McCarthy in first chance they get. I'm not so sure Darnold's going to make it that easy for them. I really look for him to have a good year for the Vikings.
I mean, we'll see. I have no reason to believe he will. Off past performances when he was starting with the Jets and the Panthers, and I have no reason to believe he will. I think Sam Darnold is a good second string quarterback, Jack. That's all I think Sam Darnold is. I mean, that's what I think. Daniel Jones is probably a good second string quarterback. There's to me, if you can't go in there and make a difference, especially after you've been in the league for more than 3 years, and you can't go in there and make a difference and win despite the odds are against you, despite your offensive line, despite your lack of defense, despite things, if you can't bring your team to win because of that, you're not you're at least not a franchise quarterback. And Darnold's not a franchise quarterback. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is a franchise quarterback.
Lawrence absolutely is a franchise.
I don't think so, Jack. We'll see. I mean, he's already
proven he's a franchise quarterback.
Where? He won one playoff game?
There's a difference between saying someone is one of the best quarterbacks in the league or franchise quarterback. You're not going to go out and get a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're not going to find one available. You're not going to draft one. So Trevor Lawrence has been getting a little better every year. Every year. Trevor Lawrence's problem is this. He came in with a top billing, a generational talent. He's going to be this, he's going to be that. He hasn't been what's been advertised. If he just came into the league as another guy, you would be very happy with how he's coming along, but he's not what he was built to be, at least not yet. That's the biggest thing to hold against Trevor Lawrence. But listen, he's the highest paid quarterback in the league. The Jaguars weren't going to give him money unless they were convinced.
Let me ask you a question. If Dallas right now said they'll trade Dak Prescott for Trevor Lawrence straight up, if you're the Jaguars, do you do it?
No. I wouldn't do it if I'm the Jaguars because I feel Trevor Lawrence has more upside. I don't think we've seen the best of Trevor Lawrence. Dak Prescott, I put him ahead of Trevor Lawrence right now, but I think Dak Prescott, we've seen the best of him, which is very good. But Trevor Lawrence could potentially be great. And the worst that'll happen with Trevor Lawrence, if he doesn't get better, he's okay as is. I'm willing to take a chance. Now, the situation's interesting, Mac, with the Miami Dolphins. You can argue Tua's been better than Trevor Lawrence so far, but Tua's been so injury prone with the concussions, and to give him all that guaranteed money, I have a hard time trusting Tua's injury history. If you're telling me that Tua's absolutely going to stay healthy, you can't guarantee that with anyone, but Tua's risk of injury is greater than the average quarterback because of the concussions. he was one concussion away from retiring. There were a lot of people thought he should retire a year ago, that he shouldn't play anymore. So because he stayed relatively healthy last year, our perception's now changing. You give Tua the money like he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, or what? I mean, you tell me.
Yes, you have.
It's a
I guess according to what you're saying, I guess you have to.
You might have to. Who else are you going to get the quarterback of? Sometimes quarterbacks need a second or third act. You mentioned Sam Darnold. Well, the Jets moved on from him. The Jets reluctantly moved on from him. They had the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and that was their chance to get an elite college quarterback, and it didn't work out with Zach Wilson, obviously. So they moved on from Darnold. If they weren't given that higher draft choice, they would have stayed with Darnold. He went to Carolina. He lost the starting job there. Bad sign. But Baker Mayfield replaced him as the starter. And Baker Mayfield lost the starting job at Carolina. And look how he's resurrected his career with the Buccaneers after being a Ram backup for a year. So Darnold's following the same formula. He went to the 49ers. He got to reset as a backup for a year behind Brock Purdy. They went to the Super Bowl. I think that year of carrying the clipboard may have been the best thing for him. And I'm not the biggest clipboard fan, as you know, Mac. I've talked with you about that on numerous occasions. But sometimes it does help. And I think in the case of Sam Darnold, that 1 extra year as the backup of the Niners, if it was a winning program, elite offensive players he got to practice with, I think that's going to help him go into the Vikings. And we'll see. Yeah. Bottom line is, if Darnold doesn't get it done with the Vikings, they'll slip in J.J. McCarthy as soon as McCarthy's ready. And Darnold's also going to have a couple of really, elite receivers, maybe the best in football, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. He's going to have guys to throw to.
I mean, we'll see. I don't think the Vikings are as good as Tampa Bay right now, but we'll see. I mean, I'm not wishing anything against them. So,
well, they're not Tampa Bay. Oh, right. They're doing a comparison with Baker Mayfield, but Baker Mayfield had a big year, and they signed him for a 2-year extension. It's good money.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit, Jack. And this is the best quarterback rivalries of all time, and these are my favorite. There's other ones that I could have mentioned, but I want to talk to you a little bit about Kenny Stabler versus Terry Bradshaw. Now, of course, they didn't play against each other. The defenses played, but their records as starters versus each other. The Raiders and the Steelers in the early 70s were going at it all the time. In fact, they faced each other. 3 straight playoff games. And the winner won the Super Bowl, whoever won those playoff games. And, of course, we know the Immaculate Catch happened during the Steelers versus the Raiders. Kenny Stabler came off the bench, led the Raiders to a touchdown, and all of a sudden Franco Harris is running down the field in the end zone. So these guys were going at it for a long time. And, in fact, they went against each other 5 straight playoff games. So who do you think has the edge when it comes to teams led by Terry Bradshaw and teams led by Ken Stabler?
Mac, not even close. Brady and Manning, not even close. Let me explain why.
Did I bring up Brady and Manning? I'm talking about Stabler versus Bradshaw.
How about quarterback rivalry?
I'm not talking about that. I'm going to talk about a few of my favorite ones. And Bradshaw and Stabler are one of my favorite ones. And that's the one that we're talking about right now. So,
well, you could talk about it, Mac, because it's your
all right, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it then.
Let me explain something. No, wait. 1 second. Let me just explain where I'm coming from so you understand. There's sometimes differences between team rivalries and player rivalries, and sometimes they go hand in hand. As a viewer who watches games, as a fan, in the past, if the Celtics would play the Lakers, what would pop into our mind? Magic against Bird. That's what pop into our mind. When the 76ers would play the Celtics back in the day, Chamberlain against Russell, even though it would be team against team also, that would pop into our mind. In football, when the Indianapolis Colts played the New England Patriots, we would think Brady and Manning a little before ahead of thinking about the teams. When you thought about Steelers and Raiders back in the day, you thought mainly of the two teams more than you did the two quarterbacks going against.
I would not necessarily agree with that. I think you would be interested in Kenny Stabler's thing against Bradshaw. I know I was. There was a huge fan base for Ken Stabler, and of course Terry Bradshaw being the quarterback of the Steelers. There was a huge place for TB. He was original TB before Tom Brady was TB.
I remember the games, Mac, and there wasn't a big thing. Oh, Stabler against Bradshaw. It wasn't a big thing. It was the Raiders against the Steelers.
Well, it was the Raiders against the Steelers. Of course it was. That's real football. But their two quarterbacks are legendary. Bradshaw and Ken Stabler are legendary, Jack.
But it wasn't their direct competition in the eyes of the fans.
Jack, when I read this article from the Bleacher Report, this was one of the top rivalries of all time.
Mac, you get the writer to write something down. You read it and take it as gospel.
Well, I'm telling you what I remember. I remember. So did I, Jack. So did I live through it.
Okay, that's good. But that's your perception. I can't knock the way you feel. That's the way you felt.
I'm telling you right now. So anyway, I'm going to go on. I'm not going to debate this with you. This what I'm doing here. So believe it or not, Kenny Stabler was the one that won the rivalry. Ken Stabler was up 6-4 when he won 3 games when he was with the Oilers.
Mac, they never won the same. People don't understand this about quarterbacks. When they say one goes against the other, it's not like pitcher against the batter. They're never on the field at the same time.
I just made that point. I just made that point when I started about it, and you just said Peyton against Tom Brady.
Saying what their record was against one another.
When I first started talking about things, Jackson, you don't listen to me. When I first talked about it, I said, of course, the quarterbacks don't play against each other. They play against the Oilers defense. That's what I prefaced the whole thing by. And then you said, Brady versus Manning.
But then you concluded, you said Stabler's record against Bradshaw. It's Stabler's record against the Steelers defense.
I understand that, Jack. And it was the Patriots. It was the Patriots versus the Colts also, which you seem to think is different. And you think that's Brady versus Manning because that was your rival.
That was a public perception.
Now you just threw everything out you just said. You just said that it's the quarterback against the defense. It's not quarterback against quarterback, but this one was different. That's nonsense.
But that's how it was advertised.
This is how it's advertised right now, too, Jack. This is what I just read. These are the best quarterback rivalries of all time. And of course, Manning and Brady was in there. That's been talked about forever. I wanted to go back and talk about other quarterback rivals besides Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. That's all.
Yeah, well, you just mentioned one, Mac. You didn't exactly.
You haven't let me talk about any other ones. Roger Staubach versus Fran Tarkenton. These two teams were in the NFL championship when they played against each other constantly. Let's see.
No one talks about Tarkenton against Staubach.
Sure, they
no
did.
One. I mean, you read this dumb thing on the reporter. You Google it.
I think you watched Joe Namath all the time. That's all. Joe Namath didn't have a rival quarterback because no one threw as many interceptions as he did. So we're not talking about Joe Namath. He had no rival as when it came to throwing interceptions. So anyway, the Dallas Cowboys versus
with Johnny Unitas when they played one another Jets and Colts. It was highly advertised.
Please, that's no rival. Unitas against Star, maybe. Unitas against Namath.
Unitas and Star, yeah.
Well,
Unitas and
Star. If you let me get through this segment, maybe we can talk about it. Back to what I was saying. The Mad Scrambler against Roger the Dodger. The of course, the Hail Mary pass. The first Hail Mary pass knocked the Vikings out of the championship, and Dallas went on to win that championship in play. Of course, the Cowboys won Super Bowls. The Vikings did not. Roger won a couple of them, and Fran Tarkenton was a leading passer for 20 years after he retired. So two really good quarterbacks, both in the Hall of Fame, and a great matchup when they played against each other. Let's see. Let's go to Big Ben versus Philip Rivers. Both were, of course, drafted in the same year. Believe it or not, it's closer than you would think. They both rank in the top 6 all-time passing yards and TDs. Big
Nick, how was that a rivalry? How often did they play against one another? One was with the San Diego Chargers, the other Pittsburgh Steelers. They won in the same division. There was no rivalry, Philip Rivers and Big Ben. They came out the same year in the same draft class. But that was it.
They played against each other 7 times. So
That's
Big Ben was
not over the course of a long career. Once every 2 years on average, they played against one another, and you call that a rivalry?
Yeah. How many times do you think Peyton Manning and Brady played each other, Jack?
They played 12 times in the regular season, and they played 5 times in the playoffs against one another, in direct games. But in the public perception was they would always compare Brady and Manning as to who was the best quarterback in the NFL. No one was ever saying Ben Roethlisberger, Philip Rivers was the best. They were saying they were one of the best, but no one was arguing that they were the best quarterback in the NFL. It would always be Brady and Manning.
Boy, this is a rough segment. Phil Rivers and Big Ben were drafted in the same class. They played each other 7 times. Big Ben won the series 4-3 when he came back from 17 points to beat the Colts in the final game.
And Big Ben would be rated ahead of Philip Rivers. He went to 3 Super Bowls, 1, 2, and Rivers never quite got to a Super Bowl. So the consensus is Big Ben would be rated ahead of Philip Rivers if you had like an all-time list.
I agree. And he did win the series 4-3. So he did both. So let's get to my favorite one. Bart Starr versus Johnny Unitas met 16 times in the regular season, most of these games. In the beginning, Unitas had a big lead until Lombardi came around, and then Starr kind of caught up to him.
So I got to rate Max. You think you rate Bart Starr ahead of Johnny Unitas? No, I don't want to hear because Lombardi came around.
That's when he started winning. Unitas
was better than Unitas.
Unitas was way ahead. I ain't got the exact numbers. Ahead of Starr before Lombardi got there. Starr didn't even start. Starr was a second stringer when Lombardi got there. He played 1 year as a starter, and Lombardi came there, and Starr was terrible. I read the story. I read the book. I read the book on Bart Starr. I read the book on Bart Starr, Jack. He was terrible till Lombardi got there. But anyway, so he catches up. And of course, the Green Bay Packers win Super Bowls and championships.
Wait. Johnny Unitas had the great Don Shula as his coach. So don't make it out to be, it's just coaching. Don Shula was Unitas'
Did I say it was just coaching? Did I say that? I said that Unitas had a lead. And when Lombardi got
Don Shula was Weeb Eubank, who was Unitas' coach.
Well, that's good.
Unitas had some darn good coaches there. A couple of Hall of Fame coaches himself.
Yeah. I feel great for him about that. So getting back to what I was saying, Starr caught up to him. Unitas fumbled late in the game in 1966 when they were playing the Packers, clinched the Western Conference for the Green Bay Packers, who went on to win the Super Bowl. So they actually finished in an 8-8 tie, Jack. That's what they ended up with. That, to me, is the best rivalry of all time. When you finish in a tie and you play each other 16 times, I would say that is probably the best quarterback rivalry of all time. So that was all I had to say about that. Let's get to your area. We got some time here. Mike Tyson calls Holmes the smartest opponent he ever faced in the ring, Jack. What do you think? Do you think Larry Holmes is the smartest heavyweight of all time?
Well, I haven't heard that, but and it's believable, Tyson said he stopped Holmes in 4 rounds in 1988. Holmes has been doing nothing but making excuses since then. He claims he didn't have enough time to train, which isn't true at all. Holmes was in excellent shape for the fight. He was given plenty of time to train, but I guess his ego bothers him. He got knocked out in 4 rounds by Tyson. Holmes is an all-time great heavyweight. If you want to put him in the top 5 of all time, I'm not going to argue with that. But the point is, Tyson, well, you could. Holmes is certainly one of the all-time greats. You know, Tyson would have knocked him out at Holmes' best. It's not a popular view, but I say that with absolute confidence, you know? And after Holmes got knocked out by Tyson, you know, he went on to be a good heavyweight. You know, he beat Oliver McCoy. Beat Ray Mercer. Ray Mercer, an unbeaten top-of-the-line heavyweight. Holmes defeated him afterwards. And but now Holmes is saying, oh, Tyson would have lost to Ernie Shavers. He would have lost to Ron Lyle. He would have lost to Ken Norton. He would have lost to me. Get off it. Tyson was great. Tyson would have obliterated the guys that he mentioned. Kenny Norton wasn't going to beat Mike Tyson. He was going to get knocked out within 3 rounds. Ernie Shavers was going to get knocked out.
That would have been a heck of a fight. That would have been a fight, though. That would have been a fight. Shavers and Tyson, I think.
Shavers was a tremendous puncher.
I think that
would have been bang, bang. And Shavers would have had an outside chance because he was such a big puncher.
Tyson was a little quicker. New Saudi Arabia, I read this, Jack. The Wrath Fund is talking about creating a massive boxing league featuring name of the biggest promoters, including Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya. They're trying to, what they say is they're trying to clean up boxing. They're trying to create the best matches. What do you think? Do you think Saudi Arabia ends up becoming a huge player, creating a league or something like that?
They already are a huge player. Are you kidding me? They're unbelievably big, and boxing needs cleaning up. I'm very supportive of what they're trying to do. What does boxing have to lose? Big fights aren't being made anyway in certain instances, and they've come around and they've made a lot of big matches, which people think couldn't have been made because money talks at the end of the day, and they have unlimited resources, it would seem. So I'm very pleased. I don't see any negativity towards what the Saudis are doing in boxing. No negativity at all. As long as they have the money to spend and they're willing to spend it, I'm fully supportive.
You're not worried about Saudi Arabia taking over boxing?
So, well, what if they do? What's the big deal? Boxing's a gutter sport as is. Are you kidding? Fighters could bet on themselves. They could threaten to kill an opponent. They could say the worst racial insults towards an opponent, and nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. It's nothing to lose here with the Saudis. If they can take over boxing and make the fights they've been making, kudos to them. Fans want to see the best fights, and the Saudis have been delivering it. Like I said, how can you have a negative feeling towards them?
I don't know. I was just wondering if that concerned you outside another country taking over boxing like that. That's all I was.
It's not a United States sport, Mac. It's a world sport.
I agree.
A world champion. They have as much a right to make inroads in boxing as any other country.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying with all the unlimited resources that you're talking about, and that they could maybe bully people. That's all I'm thinking. But
bully. They're throwing tremendous money at people. That's how they're making the fights. That's not bullying to me.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Pacquiao supposedly is going to fight for the welterweight WBC welterweight championship title.
Well, Pacquiao is eligible to get into the International Boxing Hall of Fame next year. But if he elects to take a fight, the clock starts all over again. It's a 3-year waiting period now, not 5. So if he wants to get in the Hall of Fame next year, he won't fight if he does. But if he does fight, like I said, it'll start his clock over again.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So we're about at the end of the show. We got like another 20 seconds left. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Keith Angle. Keep it on Roku all day, YouTube, Northeast National Streaming Sports, Northeast Streaming Sports. Keep us on, and you'll have sports all day, every day. Tomorrow we'll have our Sports Memory Show, where we'll be discussing some of the greatest moments in MLB, boxing, NFL, all the sports, all the big sports. We'll be talking about the history of it. Join us tomorrow with Dr. Paul Semendinger. Have a great Friday, folks.